Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Starting off our discussion right away, Dr. Saad, now celebrating the Feast of Sacrifice. Everybody's traveling everywhere. The internal tourism seems to be the highest on everybody's agenda. Everyone in Egypt is going to the North Coast, going to the Red Sea, Hurghada and Sharm el-Sheikh. How important is it for this tourism sector to really make use of all these national and religious holidays that are taking almost a week off from work?
Actually, we are lucky because this feast holiday is not a week, it's 9 days, as we say. And it was announced that it will start officially from Monday, but a lot of people took Sunday off because then they had already Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So this is a very positive effect to us in hotels and tourism. Because, you know, because of the COVID, the hotels were suffering and with low occupancy. Yes, there are some nationalities traveling, but definitely since this economic crisis hit everywhere in Europe, so the number of tourism is not as it used to be. But now we can say the government really has made great efforts. They vaccinated all the staff in Sharm el-Sheikh and Hurghada, Red Sea and South Sinai. And 100%. And of course, this gives very good message, this very safe message for the tourists to come and stay there. Normally, the domestic tourism in Feast is a saver because the hotels can sell for a good price. And they have been losing for a lot of time. So the Feast is a chance to regain or compensate some losses. We are lucky again that the feast is in summer, so this is a chance that everybody goes to the sea. You hear about very high figures in the north coast. Sharm and Hurghada are regaining back some occupancy. Nowadays, you know, Hurghada is 190,000 beds, so this is a big number. So when they make 50 or 60%, this is a huge amount of tourism coming there. Sharm is maybe 5,000 less, so we still speak about big inventory of beds. So the occupancy in the hotels is doing fine. It's very good.
Yes. Well, usually the tourism sector always, or mainly primarily, focuses on the foreign tourists, the international tourists coming to Egypt, because they come in big numbers and they're also they pay in foreign currency. However, the internal or domestic tourism now is is it more appealing for the tourism industry, because a lot of people who are used to travel abroad, now they're more reluctant to travel abroad, and now they're really focusing on domestic travel because of the lockdowns and the measures and the health scare all over the world. And as you've mentioned, it really gives a good opportunity for hotels to present their services at a good price. So now the hotel business and the tourism industry as a whole, do they now pay even more attention to the domestic tourist?
Definitely. First of all, the room rates are different. Second of all, this is cash direct. You know, hotels, when they work with a tour operator or travel agency, there is a cycle of the money, so they have to pay dues. But you stay in a hotel, before leaving you pay cash. So this is a good chance for the hotels to improve the economic situation, we can say this. Don't forget that really hotels were losing for a long time. Domestic tourism is always welcome. Why? Because the guests, they come to enjoy and they spend money. And Egyptians are very good spenders, by the way. So hotels benefit from this. Another thing, yes, the foreign tourists, maybe they pay a little bit less, but don't forget they stay the whole week. If I have a hotel and I have an Egyptian, he will stay 3-4 nights. Then I have empty the rest of the week. the foreign, because of the charters, they come and stay on weekly basis. So it's almost kind of steady occupancy. So everyone has the minus and the plus, but we always value the domestic tourism. Why? Because it never stops. It's not a political, you know, I mean,
Yes.
some country could have a political situation and he stop his tourists to coming to you, then you suffer, as we happened to us along the last time. But with Egyptian, it never stops. It's always there.
Yes. Well, Egypt is expecting $6 billion for this fiscal year 2021-2022. Is this a realistic sort of expectation coming out of the COVID-19, or is it even maybe underestimating what we could make as a tourism industry here in Egypt?
First of all, as I said, we are safe. We vaccinated our people, great efforts from the government, Ministry of Health, Ministry of Tourism, to make it safe. So Egypt is a safe destination, as we say. But we cannot control and say, let's go and make a campaign in Germany, for example, then I will get 2 million. Why? Because we don't know what's the situation tomorrow. There was a football match, Holland was having 0 COVID cases, and because after this, they have 6,000 cases. So the situation is always coming up, down. But we have always to predict, we have to calculate, we have to take a risk, but should be a calculated risk.
Yes.
So I hope that we will do the 6 billions and we will exceed. Don't forget that all of us didn't travel really since over a year and a half. We are locked down.
Yes.
So all of us are eager and anxious to travel. Whenever it's possible, myself, whenever it's possible, I will travel immediately. So at the moment things will open, definitely we'll have a boost of tourism. We did not see it since a long time.
Yes. Well, talking about a boost of tourism, the Ministry of Tourism and Antiquities has been really focusing over the past year or so on the cultural tourism, the museums, the archaeological findings, all of these things. But now it is summer, and really beach tourism is usually the highest on the agenda and in terms of tourist demand. Do we still focus mainly, number one, during the summer season on beach tourism, or do we also now have other alternative windows for tourism? We take people to Luxor and Aswan, which are warmer places compared to the north coast, of course. Yeah, and do we take them to museums? How can we actually, even if they're not as active as beach tourism, how can we make them attractive and refresh?
Don't forget, I mean, first of all, I work as a CEO for a public sector company, and we have 2 hotels, one in Luxor and one in Cairo. So I am focusing every day, daily, on how the situation in general in Luxor. And definitely what's in Luxor reflect in Aswan as well. Yes, in summer it's hot. Yes, it's not the culture tourism, but always those destinations has been working in the summer. Certain nationalities, the Spanish, you know, there will be now planned for having Spanish charter flights in August to Egypt. So there is always a chance of filling hotels in Upper Egypt, as we say, in the heat, because it's a dry heat. It's not humid. So the dry doesn't really, and the tourists change the schedule. They start early morning, maybe at 5 or 6 o'clock when the weather is still good, until 10 o'clock, and then they go back to their air-conditioned room, and then they start again in the afternoon and late at night. So they don't really get the sunstroke and they don't suffer it. What we are trying to do now, working on changing the prospect of those destinations. So when we speak about Luxor, you will tell me immediately, let's go to the tombs, Valley of the Kings, Karnak Temple, Luxor Temple, Hatshepsut. What we are working now, and I'm starting in September, October, with the hotels, doing a campaign that Luxor is not only temples, but it's adventure. You can go camel riding, you can go horse riding in the fields, which you don't do this in many places in Egypt. You can go quad runner in the desert, in the West Bank.
Yes.
You can have a balloon. It's the only place, the whole, you can, from the balloon, you see all those nice temples and the Nile. You can have a felucca ride. You can see the sound and light. It's fantastic show with the lights and effects. So we are working now on a program mainly to get from Russia, get this type, present this type of tourism, adventure. And when it comes to adventure, people will not care if it's hot or not care, because this type of tourism, you know, they really don't care much about it. So we are trying to work with the hotels in Luxor to focus in this new type of tourism. So hopefully in the future, it will fill and then fill the gaps. And then if you have any kind of hits again, like what we have, you don't lose again only the culture tourism, but you can still win with the adventure tourism, more from Egyptians. Because I can, if I go and have fun in the mountain or the camel and thing, I can go 5 or 6 times. It's not that I have to go and see the same tomb again. I saw it. You saw the pyramids once, twice, 3 times. But it will not be a first choice for you. But when we present the adventure, it will be always the first choice and the fun.
Well, Dr. Saad, now Egypt received about 3.4 million tourists during last year. During a pandemic that hit the whole world, we received 3.4 million. Egypt is now expecting around 15 million tourists. Now, what sort of measures?
15. 1.5, no.
10? 5?
We are pushing, hoping to get 5 or 6.
Okay.
15 is a big number.
Okay, 6. So that's almost double the amount or the number of tourists that came last year. How can we ensure the safety and security, especially because everyone's worried about the pandemic, the coronavirus, the Delta variant, a 4th wave, a 5th wave. Everybody's worried and concerned. You've mentioned the fact that all hotel staff are vaccinated, 100% of them. But what sort of other measures can we take, and we are actually taking, to ensure the health, safety and security for the visitors? How do you manage them within your hotels and the sites that tourists visit?
The Ministry of Tourism has put measures, and there is a regular inspection from the Ministry of Tourism to hotels to make sure they are following the safety measures. 2-3 days ago, the committee of the Ministry of Tourism, the hotel section, they closed 7 restaurants and they gave a warning for hotels if they do not fix the situation. Why? Because if anything happens, if anything hit, we will all be suffering again. So the hotels, they don't want to get the same problem again. So they are working hard to make it according to rules and regulation. Plus, as a control, the Ministry of Tourism is doing the inspection trips to assure that we are doing the correct thing. What we are trying to do now, and what we should always focus, that we are vaccinated 100%. And tell you here, not only the hotel staff, anyone who lives in Hurghada on Sharm, they were holding booths in the streets everywhere, and they ask you, did you take your, no, come in and take your vaccination, free of charge for everyone. It's not an easy, because it was a task done for a certain very short period, maybe 3 or 4 weeks, and to vaccinate the whole city was not easy. And then they put measures. The staff of the hotel, if he is vaccinated, he doesn't go back to his home town in his vacation until it's a long period. It's not that I'm vaccinated, tomorrow I go, because probably I get it and give the infection back again. So they took very tough measures and still working on this, both in Hurghada and Sharm el-Sheikh.
Yes. Well, do other governments around the world, do other countries around the world, are they well informed of these tough measures that are being taken? Because it would definitely encourage their own tourists to come to Egypt if they are well informed of these measures.
There is a media campaign, but let me tell you now, really. If you look to the Italian TV, they encourage, which never happened before, domestic tourism. Spend the summer in Italy. The same, the president of France came out and said, please spend your summer in France, because all the countries are suffering economically. So they are trying as much as possible to keep the citizens in their country. Russia is giving a direct support for domestic. They cut off your VAT, your sales tax. If you are Russian passport, Russian nationality, and staying in one of the resorts, Russian resorts, you don't pay the sales tax. So it's a kind of support. So each country now is trying to keep their citizen just to be supported economically. So it's a battle. It's a very small cake left. So everyone is trying to grab as much as he can.
Well, talking about all countries trying to really encourage their own domestic tourism, and Egypt also is trying to encourage its own domestic tourism, and Egyptians are also, it might be a bit more difficult for them or less encouraged to travel abroad for all the lockdowns and the measures around the world. Does that create some sort of a healthy competition now among hotels and resorts here in Egypt, or is it still a big enough cake for all to share?
No, there is always this competition. They try their best. They encourage the local travel agencies to sell packages, which was not happening before. We can say the compass has changed a lot, and there is a lot of measures has changed in the domestic tourism since 2 years. Really big changes. Hotels are welcoming Egyptians, offering good rates, advertising all the time. So we see a positive and healthy move in this thing.
You've mentioned that we are getting a Spanish charter in August. Which of the countries were most encouraged and really booked their own charters right away to Egypt?
See, for culture tourism, it's only Spain who travels to those areas in summer. Sometimes Italy, but Italy is really suffering economically. But to Sharm and Hurghada, you have there is a charter from Serbia. There is from East Europe. Let's say more than this. Still, some German and Swiss flights come in. It's here. It goes through the low-cost carriers. So you pay ticket and you travel. Otherwise, we wouldn't get the 3 million tourists, as you mentioned before.
Yes. Well, ladies and gentlemen, talking about different countries sending their tourists to come to Egypt, Russia is one of the main countries that have always been a great source of foreign tourists coming to Egypt. Talks of the resumption of Russian air flights coming to Cairo. Let's check out this report and we'll be right back.
Let's enjoy this happy day. Eid Mubarak, come on, let's celebrate. Eid Saeed, let's enjoy this happy day. Eid Mubarak, come on, let's celebrate.
Egypt has welcomed Russia's decision to lift the ban on charter flights by Russian airlines to Red Sea resorts after around 6 years of suspension. In the Foreign Ministry statement, Cairo said it was looking forward to the speedy return of the Russian tourists to Egyptian resorts, which would enhance bilateral cooperation in the field of tourism. The ban was annulled by a presidential decree from Russian President Vladimir Putin 6 years after suspending them for national security reasons in the aftermath of a plane crash. In its statement, Egypt affirmed that this decision reflects the growing strength of the Egyptian-Russian relations and expressed its readiness to receive Russian tourists at its resorts. A statement by the Kremlin also confirmed that Russia withdrew its recommendations against selling tours to Egyptian Red Sea resorts. The Russian flight resumption will greatly flourish the tourism industry in Egypt, as Russia considers the Red Sea resort of Sharm el-Sheikh and Hurghada as the top destinations for its tourists. Putin's decree lifting the ban will be a boom for the year-round resorts, which attracted large numbers of Russians in the past. Before Moscow's latest decision, only Russian regular flights to Cairo and official flights to Egypt were allowed. Before the flight stops, Egypt was one of the most popular destinations for the Russian tourists. In 2014-2015, it was visited by more than 2.2 million Russians. In 2016-2017, only a few hundreds. In 2018, about 13.6 thousand. In 2019, less than 26,000. And in 2020, about 14,000.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Continuing our talk with Dr. Saad. Now, the Russian flights, the Russian tourists Russian tourists have always been a very integral tourists to Egypt, especially in the Sinai Peninsula, the Red Sea, Hurghada and Sharm el-Sheikh in specific. Now, for over maybe a little bit more than 5 years, the Russian flights have been halted, and there is a lot of talk quite recently about the resumption of the Russian flights coming to Cairo, coming to Egypt specifically. How important and how integral is such a move by the Russian tourists coming to Egypt?
Let me start by telling you, in 2014, we received 3.1 million Russian tourists. In 2015, they got a devaluation in their currency, so they were hit economically. And we got the accident by 1st of November or end of October. So we got 2.5 million tourists only. So we had less a big number. When you have this number, it means it's not only that you fill the hotel, you have service providers. You have boats, you have quad runners, you have buses, shops, and so on. So when the Russian tourism stopped, it was hit directly. And here the people, why tourism is very good? Because when there is a flow of currency, or when there is economic flow comes in, every individual benefits directly. We have petrol for, say, just to Egypt. It goes to the government. It comes back to me as a citizen in sort of services and many other things. But when you have a tourist, you benefit directly, so you see you improve the living very quickly. So when Russian stopped, really it hit, because it was 1/3 of our tourists coming there. So we have been waiting. We know very well it was a political decision, because all the measures they asked were given. And why Russians are afraid to come when Americans and Japanese and all Europeans allowed? Because just to tell you again, according to IATA rules in general and the law, international law of aviation, every certain period, different missions come from different countries to inspect the safety rules and regulation, everything in the airports, in the international airports. So we have regular checks. So we are complying, I'm trying to say this. But it was a political decision. So finally now, President Putin signed on a Thursday an agreement that you can resume direct flying to Sharm and Hurghada. Here when we say direct flight, it's charter. Charter normally is cheaper economically than low-cost carrier or regular flight. Now, since the beginning of the summer, we received 6 flights from Russia, plus Aeroflot and Egypt Air coming to Cairo. The 6 coming from different destinations.
Yes.
This is regular flight. So they come to Cairo and they go by bus to Hurghada or Sharm el-Sheikh when they finish the trip. Of course, it's exhausting because you spend 5-6 hours in a bus plus the cost. So now we are waiting that to resume the direct charter flights to Sharm and Hurghada, hopefully that this will push back again tourism.
Yes. Well, talking about getting the Russian tourists here, now, what else other than the, you've mentioned the precautionary measures and the compliance of the airports here in Egypt, but also the airlines, do they also make, do they offer better prices? Do they offer more economic and maybe frequent flights coming to Cairo? Are they doing their part as well, the aviation sector?
This is international rules, so they have to follow. But don't forget that when the corona hit very bad, a lot of planes were landing there standing. So the flight companies have been suffering a lot. So each one has been suffering. So each one is trying economically to survive. So they calculate exactly how much they can offer and can do all this, because they have been losing long time. So now they are trying to go back. But I have to mention as well, in Russia, there is a COVID committee which decides how many tourists can go to each domestic destination, to each international destination on charter flights. So they will decide just to say we will send only 10,000 people to Sharm and 5,000 to Hurghada. And only this committee has the permission, sign the paper so the charter flights can resume. So now the Russian airline companies and the tour operators are waiting. The committee should meet sometime. They didn't announce yet. Could be meeting today, tomorrow, or next week. And then they will decide, announce exactly when the charters will resume coming back from Russia to Egypt and how many to each destination. So until now, we don't know, but officially they are allowed to fly directly.
And their criteria, this committee, is solely based on health and sort of COVID-19 standards?
This is why, you know, I mean, the government, the Egyptian government was very clever, so they took the measures of giving the vaccine for the COVID in Sharm and Hurghada a little bit early.
Yes.
So we are ready. I'm saying this. So we hope that the committee will meet again soon. We hope then they give us enough number of tourists coming to both destinations.
Yes. Well, talking about informing other countries and other governments about our ready tourism sector here in Egypt, there is an international promotional campaign by the ministry that will span for about 3 years that is amounting for $90 million. How effective do you think this could be to attract foreign tourists coming to Egypt? And do they have a certain strategy or a different strategy as opposed to the strategy they've been following over the past few years?
To be honest, we don't know yet. We know that the agreement was signed with a Canadian and British company, and we assume that they get some people from the industry to do the campaign, to design the campaign. We hope that we don't do the same mistakes like before. We have Egypt, if we want to have really tourism and filling different destinations, we shouldn't do one generic ad. If I'm talking to culture tourism, addressing the people of culture and tourism, definitely I speak in a different way than addressing you to come and spend time in Sharm or adventure. If I want to focus, like Luxor now could be an adventure destination, then I should do in a different way. So now they are meeting, now they are studying, so definitely I think they will come out with something good.
Yes. Dr. Saad, now it seems that the most active touristic or foreign touristic destinations here in Egypt would be the Red Sea, Hurghada, Sharm el-Sheikh and Luxor, Upper Egypt, with all the cultural and adventure tourism you've mentioned. But what about the North Coast? The North Coast is an extremely popular destination for all domestic tourists here in Egypt. And even the hotel business there, it is flourishing, but it still mainly depends on the domestic tourists. Are there plans to really expand it and promote it as one of the ultimate summer destinations here in Egypt?
Don't forget there are already flights go to Marsa Matruh and Maza. They go used to be Italian. I don't think the Italian started yet now. I'm not sure, but we have Azerbaijan, we have Kazakhstan, we have some countries goes already to the North Coast. But what do we do when they go to the North Coast? We go Egyptians, we go fun from one pub to restaurants and meet friends and things like this. It's different type of tourism. So I do not expect that this type of tourism will be liked by Italians, because each population has his own habits, has his own fun habits. Plus, in hotels in the North Coast, normal hotel you find the room 5, 6, 7, 8,000 pounds. Definitely is much more. It's double the price what you pay in the French Riviera.
Yes.
So let the North Coast for us and then give the foreigners shawarma.
Yes. Well, we are building new cities as well over there. We're building the new Alamein city, the Burj Al Arab. I mean, we're talking about major cities being built over there. Are they being built just to really pump life into these areas and create lives there with the schools, the businesses, the restaurants, the housing and everything? But do they also keep in mind having some sort of a window or a part that will be mainly dedicated for tourists?
Definitely, the new Alamein, really a big part of it is dedicated for tourists. And they have huge number of hotels, chains are coming up there. So I'm sure if it's properly marketed in each market, because Egypt is very good 365 days a year, the weather. You can travel anytime. You can go to the sea, okay, some windy days in winter in the north coast, but still more years. So if you really plan saying like, just to say, the Scandinavians normally start their vacation in April, May, but by August the school starts. So they come in a certain time. Italian starts in August and they finish a little bit late. German, October is the high season. So we should have a map with the season, traveling season of each nationality and market this, because then by this time you will get 9 months full in the north coast. Just there are 3 months which are winds and this kind of things.
Yes.
But we should put the plan and see which countries like to go in which time, and then you start marketing those in order to fill all the hotels coming in Alamein and the north coast.
Yes. Well, does it make a difference now that a lot of the most of the students now are taking their exams and their classes and courses online, which makes it maybe convenient for a family to actually travel and their kids can actually study and take even their exams online? Does it make a difference or not much of a difference? I mean, does it change the habits, the traveling habits of Egyptians?
I'm sure it will come over time. But now if the parent can control the kids and not go to the sea and spend the whole day and come back and study, definitely it will work. But definitely things are changing. Our habits changed since the corona came. So it will come through the time.
Yes. Well, there's been a lot of work on infrastructure and roads and transportation, a lot of highways and bridges and flights and airports and all of that. Do you take notice, I mean, through your work being a CEO of the hotels in Cairo and in Luxor, and overlooking all of these also cultural destinations here in Egypt, does it make a difference? Does it save time? Does it save money? Is it much more interesting, even candy eye interesting for tourists, foreign tourists coming to Egypt?
You see, the roads actually, when you go to Alamein, to speak about Alamein again, now it's very easy, 2 hours you are in Cairo and you can have a full tour and you can spend either overnight in Cairo and come back. So I would go as a tourist, I will go and spend some time by the sea and then I will go easy to Cairo. So those roads really has changed a little bit much more the map of Egypt. Marsa Alam has built nice roads, then you can go to Aswan or Luxor because it's not far. The same for Hurghada. So definitely all those roads and the ease of transportation is changing the map of culture tourism and leisure tourism. Because now, why do I go and stay 1 week in one place? I can stay here in 2 places at the same time.
Yes.
So it's helping a lot.
You've mentioned a couple of times Marsa Matruh as a touristic destination. Is it a place that is still some sort of kind of a fertile soil for more hotels to be built there? Now there's a lot of work as well that is planned for this the North Coast road from the North Coast to Marsa Matruh. They're talking about really expanding it to 6 lanes. is this also still a destination, even if it's not for foreign tourists, and we're going to keep it for domestic tourists, as you've mentioned, but is it still a potential place and touristic hub, at least for the hotel business?
See, when I have a hotel, I should see how much I spend per year and how much I earn and return on my investment. Because, I mean, hotels now we speak about billions, right? The problem always of the North Coast is that it works 4 or 5 months a year maximum. Until we change our habits. Because sometimes you can go in November and the weather is fantastic. But tell anyone, let's go to Alexandria in November, no, it's very cold, you know.
Yes.
So until we change our perspective of traveling, that we can feel long times of the year, you know. Alamein is built as a city with different activities, not only tourism. So they have group of hotels with big number of rooms and chains because it will be filled, because people are coming for different purpose, not just staying by the sea. But when you build a city or a destination based on the sea, on 4 or 5 months total of the year, economically, it doesn't fit. This is why Sharm and Hurghada are working year round. Hotels are doing 70% occupancy in normal days year round. Why? Because it pays back the return of investment. So when we speak about hotelier economically, then I have to calculate. Plus, if I want to get skillful staff, good staff, then I have to give them work year round. I cannot get you for 4 or 5 months and then send you home for 5 months.
Yes.
You will go to do another work. And when I tell you come back, you wouldn't come. So it's a lot of details the owner or the investor should consider before deciding what to do.
And does the same apply to destinations such as Ras Sidr, for instance?
Ras Sidr is 100% domestic because, again, it's weekend. You don't have real big hotel industry there. The hotels there are not very high classy stuff because you need to see what kills the hotel is the service, is the staff. If you have good staff, good service, you will survive. We have few chains here, you know them, international chain. 95% of the staff are Egyptians, but you go there, you know that you will get guaranteed service. You get it. You pay for any price they ask for, right? So the problem of certain destinations, since the business is not stable, you cannot afford to pay a chef a certain amount of money to get the quality. You live, people are happy. I'm going to a certain place, paying little amount of money, I'm happy for what I get. So I want to say that why do we have to see always everything in 5 stars? No, I can always go to 2 stars because we are 100 million.
Yes.
We need as much as we can. So other areas could live in a certain categories according to the prices. Other areas could survive the whole year, but others can live only in summer. As it used to be, you have Ras Al Bar, you have Baltim, you have those destinations. In summer they are full, and people working there make money.
Yes. And do we have, because it seems that we have so many places, so many hotels, so many touristic destinations, do we have enough staff, enough service providers for all of these
This is the threat
places?
because of COVID. A lot of people left the business, you know. The problem is not that you need to get a good waiter. The problem is you need to get a good houseman. The problem is you need to get a good maintenance who can fix an air condition, who can fix the oven and all this.
Yes.
A problem when, because of the COVID and some hotels were closed and business slowed down, of course the income of most of those people was affected. So a lot of those people went to another jobs. So now he's doing something different. So it's not easy to convince him to return back. So we lost a lot of skilled people. But on the bright side, the Ministry of Tourism with TVET is an organization through the United Nations, are giving a lot of training courses for the staff, hopefully to bring back a good generation, skilled generation to work in hotels.
And are Egyptians encouraged to go to these training programs?
Made like 20,000 people training in this. Actually, they call you. I can come to your hotel and give you the training course. Tell me what's your need, free of charge, totally free, sponsored by the ministry. But you still need more. We have 205,000 rooms in Egypt. So you need much more than this.
The thing is, a lot of the, it seems that a lot of the people working in the tourism industry, I mean, after the revolutions, after the political developments taking place, and then we've recovered, and then we're hit, the whole world is hit by a pandemic. And the tourism sector is one of the first sectors to be affected globally. And so people are kind of reluctant to immerse themselves 100% into the industry. What can we do to inform them of the potential that they can achieve in not just as a career, but also financially? It is a year-long business sector here in Egypt.
Working in tourism like an addict. You love it, you leave it, but then you go back directly because it's fun. It's an addiction, really, it's an addiction. When you work with hotels, it's different life. You see every day different people, different adventures, fun and stress and all these things. So, yes, when a problem happens, a lot of people leave the job. But when tourism come back, a lot of people return back. Because when tourism is good, we make a lot of good money. Problem when it hits, we used to have this, we have always this. But the problem when the hit stays for a long time, like this COVID thing, without that nobody has any, how to say, I mean, the effect came from out of our hands. We cannot do it. It's there. When it will finish, I don't know. But a lot of measures are taken to bring back tourism, to make things happening. It's coming back slowly. So hopefully we go back to the normal peak, and then the people who are addicted will come back. Yes.
Well, because we're running out of time, Dr. Saad, now it seems that the government is really doing a lot of effort to help encourage and flourish this, help this tourism sector flourish. What would you want to see happen more in the tourism sector, something that is being done by the Ministry of Tourism and Antiquities?
Well, let me start when you said the government. The Prime Minister in person, he meets every week, every regular time with the people in tourism. He listens, they change. The President himself is interested about this. So anything comes out, we ask the Ministry of Tourism to do it. What we need is to make a domestic program support, like once upon a time, that you pay a certain fee to lower the cost of traveling, then you can get more people traveling.
Yes. Well, ladies and gentlemen, definitely one of the most addictive sectors, as Dr. Saad mentioned, is the tourism sector, one of the most integral ones for Egypt, not just economically, but also culturally. It is a country, Egypt is a country that is full of great touristic potential. It has always been one of the top touristic destinations around the world and is kicking back after the pandemic. And still a lot more needs to be done by on top of the great efforts exerted by the Egyptian government. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have for this edition, special edition celebrating the first day of the Feast of Sacrifice. I'd like to thank my very distinguished guest, Dr. Sameh Saad, the expert and the tourism ministry consultant. Dr. Saad, always a pleasure having you with us. Thank you very much.
Pleasure as well.
Thank you very much, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us, and stay tuned for more coming up on Nile TV International. Wishing you all the best for this blessed feast. I'm Hani Saif. Thank you for joining us.